right. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good day so far. So just as a reminder, in about 5 minutes, we're going to get things started. So let's take this opportunity to find our seats. I see everyone already did that, so good job. And if you haven't signed the guest book yet, then don't worry too much about it right now. You'll have plenty of time to do it after the ceremony and as we go into the reception. So again, let's just get our seats, and then if we don't have a program, let's get that too. And before I forget, let's put our phones on silent or vibrate. Just do what you gotta do so everything runs smoothly. Okay, so again, the ceremony will start in 5 minutes. Then Brother Mikey Lontok from the Lake Elizabeth Tagalog congregation will commence the wedding procession. So thank you everyone for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. No, he's just going to be here. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, friends and family. Again, we'd like to welcome you here. This is a very special occasion. On behalf of Mike and Joe, we thank you for your presence here today. And now we'll go ahead and start the wedding procession. Well, Mike, Joe, November 17, 2017. The day has finally come. Months and months of planning and waiting and planning and waiting. Had a little bit of rain, delayed a little bit. That's okay. We're finally here. Has culminated to this moment right now. So, let's take a deep breath. Breathe. And let's reflect for a second. And let's talk about why we're really here. And that is marriage, or the marriage arrangement. It is truly a gift from Jehovah God. I'll try to make it quick in case it starts raining here. Okay. When Jehovah God created the earth and everything in it, one of the last things that he constituted was the marriage arrangement. Well, why did he do that? Well, wedlock is one of Jehovah's provisions for the lasting benefit and happiness of his earthly children. God gave the first man, Adam, everything he needed in order to enjoy his life. Food? Check. Water? Check. A place to live and a purpose? Check, check. But as he was finishing his list, in his infinite wisdom, Jehovah God saw that Adam had a need for one more thing. Well, let's read that here in Genesis chapter 2, in verses 18. Let's start there. Genesis 2 and verse 18. And let's see what Jehovah was thinking as he was finishing up his work here on earth, as he was creating the earth. It says here, then Jehovah God said, it is not good for the man to continue to be alone. I'm going to make a helper for him as a complement of him. So we see here that, yes, Adam needed a helper and a complement in order to complete his life. So Jehovah God oversaw the first marriage arrangement. He brought them together and he married them. Here in continuing chapter 2, and let's read verses 21 and 22. It says here, so Jehovah God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took up one of his ribs and then closed up his flesh over its place. And Jehovah God built the rib that he had taken from the man into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And obviously, this is not a simple thing. It's not just an empty sentiment that Jehovah did for Adam. And this provision was to be a permanent union for them. And let's see that here in verses 23 and 24. And let's see how Adam felt after Jehovah God gave him this great gift. Adam said, this is at last bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one will be called woman, because from man she was taken. That is why a man will leave his father and his mother, and he will stick to his wife, and they will become one flesh. So Jehovah created Eve from one of Adam's ribs, and essentially they were one flesh. They were made for each other and were to live together happily forever. So the Bible describes Jehovah as a God of love and a happy God. Therefore, an honorable marriage should reflect these qualities. But how? And the real question is, how can you make it last? It's easy to say today that you guys are full of love and happiness in this very special occasion. But the key is to have the same feeling tomorrow, on your first anniversary, and beyond. So how can you make your marriage last in love and in happiness? Well, for a Christian marriage to last, Jehovah God must be put first in your lives, both individually and as a couple. And his advice should be followed by both the husband and the wife. So before starting your relationship together, Mike and Joe, you each had your own personal relationship with Jehovah God. You dedicated your lives to him. Now today, you'll be dedicating your lives to each other. Are you able to dedicate your life to Jehovah and to your spouse? Well, the answer, of course, is yes. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 illustrates how your relationships should be intertwined with one another. Let's read it here in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. And let's start with verses 9. Ecclesiastes 4 and verse 9. It says here, two are better than one because they have a good reward for the hard work. For if one of them falls, the other can help his partner up. What will happen to the one who falls with no one to help him up? In verse 12, and someone may overpower one alone, but two together can stand against him, and a threefold cord cannot quickly be torn apart. So yes, marriage is like a twofold cord, with both mates united and mutually supportive of each other. But the love for God can strengthen the marriage. It's the thing that binds you together strongly. So we can fully trust in God's advice for us, for He knows our physical and emotional makeup better than any human marriage counselor. The counsel is timeless and still applicable to our day for both husbands and wives. So we find this advice through studying the Bible, through prayer, and worshiping together. And this will draw you closer to each other and, more importantly, to Jehovah God. We constantly hear reminders of keeping your family worship night regular. And I know you guys are good at doing that. So continue to make time for that. As you start your family worship as husband and wife, you'll see that many articles about family life are going to have a different meaning for you. So really take that to heart. So what advice and counsel can we find for husbands and wives in the Bible? Well, first let's talk about husbands, Mike. And in the family arrangement, the husband is appointed by God as the loving head of the family. So by being a head, you have to show headship. And headship involves using sound judgment based on the Bible, taking the lead in a loving and kind way. It's true, your position as a head of the family already has a measure of respect attached to it, knowing that Jehovah had instituted you as the head. However, Christian headship does not permit a man to be a tyrant or a dictator. Utos ng utos, just what I say goes, right? You want to continue to do your utmost to earn, establish, and grow the respect in the eyes of your family. So you do this, of course, by applying Bible's principles and showing godly qualities such as patience, mildness, and self-control. You also show your headship by supplying for the material, spiritual, emotional, and recreational needs for your family. Now, of course, it can be a challenge to balance all these needs. It can be a little daunting. But how are you able to find the balance? Well, you do that by recognizing what's the most important need of your family. Of course, that is their spiritual needs. And the key component of taking care of your family's spiritual need? Family worship, right? You're going to keep putting that in your head. Family worship, family worship, family worship, okay? So be a good example by putting spiritual things first in your life. And taking the lead in worship is sometimes overlooked by many in the world. But it's a vital thing in balancing a Christian family life. Husbands are also to follow the example that Jesus Christ left regarding headship. Well, how is that possible? Well, here on earth, Jesus wasn't or never had a fleshly wife. But he was given the position as head of the Christian congregation. So let's see the counsel here in our Bibles in Ephesians chapter 5. And let's see how husbands are to imitate him regarding headship. It's Ephesians chapter 5. And let's start with verses 25. Ephesians 5. Starting verse 25, it says here, husbands, or Mike, continue loving your wives, or Joe, just as the Christ also loved the congregation and gave himself up for it. Verse 28, in the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. A man who loves his wife loves himself. For no man ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cherishes it, just as the Christ does the congregation. So you see here in verse 25 that Jesus was willing to give his life for the congregation. So you would like to show a self-sacrificing spirit. Jesus always unselfishly put others first, and he was mild-tempered and was a source of refreshment for his followers. Verses 28 and 29 mentions how Christian husbands are to love his wife as his own body. You are to feed and cherish it. So we know, Mike, as much as you feed your body, we know you're going to cherish Joe, okay? Of course, there are things that are mentioned in our scriptures you need to avoid, making sure that you don't hate your body or hate yourself, and that you not brutal to your own body, but you feel its needs. So you want to avoid being violently angry with Joe in words or action, and definitely not wanting to downgrade her. So Mike, as the head of the family, you want to imitate Jesus in these aspects. You're no longer going to live just for yourself. You must also think about Joe, too, and what kind of effect it can have for the both of you whenever you make any decisions or choices. Thank you. So this involves also any decision that may be big or small, and also how you handle situations where your headship needs to be dignified and Christ-like. So to illustrate this, imagine after a long day at work, maybe you had to work a double shift, you're stuck in traffic trying to get home, you're tired, you're weary. Jo shortly follows you, and she comes home, and she comes in with a sad look in her eyes. She tells you, "Hun, babe, what do you call him? Whatever. We'll stick with Hun. Hun, I'm so sorry, but I just got a speeding ticket driving home." So as tired and as weary as you are at that time, what would your reaction be? "Eh, sabi ko nga, ang bilis-bilis mo pumaneho." So you got so mad that you're speaking Tagalog at her, right? So that should that be your reaction? Obviously not. You want to reflect Jesus' mild-tempered spirit, unselfishly trying to make her feel better without dwelling on your own feelings or tiredness. So we'll be like, "Hun, it's okay. Figure it out, and I know you won't do it again," right? So that kind of reaction would gain her respect, and will continue to see that you are doing your best as head of the family, and you will earn that respect that she would love to show you. So Mike, proper headship is based on love, guided by Bible principles, and imitates Christ's personality. Did you get all that? Okay. Joe, your turn, okay? The Bible shows that the wife's role in marriage is an honorable and dignified one. Let's read that here in our Bible, in 1 Peter chapter 3, and we'll read verse 7. 1 Peter chapter 3, and verse 7. Okay, it says here, "You husbands, in the same way, continue dwelling with them," or your wives, "according to knowledge. Assign them honor as to a weaker vessel, the feminine one, since they are also heirs with you of the undeserved favor of life, in order for your prayers not to be hindered." So you see there, you will continue to dwell with Mike, you will continue to dwell with Joe according to knowledge. And then if you look at the footnote there, it says they're showing consideration and understanding them. So Mike, as you have getting to know Joe through your courtship, you show her dignity by approaching her based off the experiences that you had as you were dating. And you recognize and understand her feelings. Now, Christian husbands are also to assign their wives honor as to a weaker vessel. Weaker vessel, that doesn't sound too honorable, does it? Well, if we think about a priceless, one-of-a-kind vase, we know that those things are valuable and are taken or handled with care and consideration. So Joe, you will be that priceless vase in Mike's eyes. He will take care of you, and he will consider you and make sure that nothing comes to harm to you, okay? And he'll recognize that, yes, you are a complement and a helper to him. Now, as a complement, the wife is obviously not a slave or inferior as a person. So she's not just a maid to cook for you, Mike, and to clean and to carry her to every whim. She's going to do a little bit, but not every whim. Of course, she's there to enhance your life. So to illustrate this, at many high-end restaurants, on the menu, under each entree, what do you see that goes with that entree? Yes, a wine pairing. for that dish. And it's there in order to enhance and also bring out more flavor out of that dish. Yes, that entree is going to be good without that wine, but if you pair it with that wine, delicious, right? So yes, wives are like that fine wine that is paired with that entree. You'll bring out the subtleties and depth of character out of Mike that he couldn't have been without you. So it goes without saying, how you handle your role as his wife can have a positive effect in your relationship. Your recognition of the headship principle will promote marital success and happiness. Let's turn back to Ephesians chapter 5. Let's see the counsel here for wives regarding headship. Ephesians chapter 5. Starting with verse 22. It says here, "Let wives be in subjection to their husbands as to the Lord, because a husband is the head of his wife, just as Christ is head of the congregation, he being a savior of this body. In fact, as the congregation is in subjection to the Christ, wives should also be to their husbands in everything." So yes, relative subjection is a divine commandment. So it's in our best interest to follow that command. Even Jesus Christ, as the head of the congregation, also had a head, who is Jehovah God. And we know without any type of headship or leadership, the result could be discord, confusion, and unhappiness. So Joe, in the end, you must follow Mike's lead, knowing Jehovah instilled him as head of the family. You also must avoid the mentality of being the neck that turns the head, right? Which means you can't control what he does when it comes to making that final decision. Of course, you're going to have input, suggestions, and you are there to help him in making decisions. Of course, ultimately it's Mike's responsibility as head to apply Bible principles to any situation regarding your family life. Having deep respect for your husband can be shown by cooperation with him and not competition. Let's read Ephesians 5:33 regarding that principle. Ephesians 5, and now verse 33 says, "Nevertheless, each one of you must love his wife as he does himself. On the other hand, the wife should have deep respect for her husband." So again, we see here that Mike's headship is based on love for you, and therefore you should have deep respect for him. Now, what does that mean? Well, again, there are going to be times where you're going to make choices and decisions, and Mike will look to you in order to make those decisions. So let's think about a situation. Let's say Mike wants to bring a brand new TV home, and he's looking after work at Costco, and he sees this big old 75-inch HD TV. And he says, "Hun, I'm going to buy this TV for you," okay? Well, you look at the TV, and you give him your opinion and suggest what you should get. You work right across from the TV section there in optometry, so you have a little bit of insight on which TV is going to look best and how it's all going to fit with your furniture. And you suggest just a 60-inch should be okay. You appreciate it, but 60 inches, that one should fit better. Well, next day, Mike comes home from work, and he's carrying this big old 75-inch TV. He didn't listen to your suggestion. Tries to mount it, too big, doesn't fit. What's going to be your reaction to that? Well, we know whenever Mike's going to make a mistake, and we know he's going to make a mistake, only because we all are imperfect, you won't belittle him, but you'll be understanding. There's no room for a strong relationship for "I told you so," right? You'll see that he just want to give you the best, knowing his intentions were good. And you'll both learn how to work out to respect each other's wishes and ideas on matters. Remember, a Christian wife is designed to be also a helper, to work with her husband. And you'll contribute much to making the home a pleasant and happy home. Proverbs chapter 31 describes how a capable wife, or in the footnote it says an excellent wife, can do that. Now, in watching you two planning this wedding, especially in this last week, I can see that you'll be more than capable to fill that role as a Christian wife, Joe. And again, you'll look to Mike in making decisions, and you'll work with him in order to make these decisions succeed. And in doing so, Mike will love you and cherish your support as his complement and helper, just as Jehovah God intended. So, Mike, Joe, quite a bit to think about, right? And what we've covered through all the Bible principles and how it should direct your new relationship today as husband and wife. And truly, we don't expect you to remember all of this that we've covered and that we've discussed. But the key idea here is, what should you do in order to maintain an honorable marriage in God's sight? Well, Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 14 summarizes it very well for us. And we would all do well in order to apply this in any human relationship that we have, but most importantly, with our spouse. Let's read that here in Colossians chapter 3, starting in verse 12. It says here, accordingly, as God's chosen ones, holy and loved, clothe yourselves with the tender affections of compassion, kindness, humility, mildness, and patience. Continue putting up with one another and forgiving one another freely, even if anyone has a cause for complaint against another. Just as Jehovah freely forgave you, you must also do the same. But besides all of these things, clothe yourselves with love, for it is a perfect bond of union. We see here in the first two verses some key qualities that we've mentioned before: compassion, kindness, humility, being freely forgiving. But let's key into verse 14, where it basically says there that both mates or both people should clothe themselves with love, for it is a perfect bond of union. So our clothing serves two purposes. One, it protects our bodies from the elements like rain, but we're okay for now. So in the same way, love safeguards our marital unity as long as we are clothed by it. Second purpose the clothing can serve is to enhance the beauty of the wearer. If we take a look at Joe's gown today, we can see how beautiful it looks and how pretty she looks today as well. So likewise, love can add luster to God's marvelous provision of marriage. Now, if we notice Joe's gown, we know that the seamstress that made that dress did not make that out of just one piece of cloth, just cut out, there you go, dress. No. We know within each piece of fabric are made of threads, and that putting those pieces of fabric together are stitches that combine together in order to make that beautiful dress. So likewise, Mike and Joe, your relationship is not based on one large single act of love today towards each other. Rather, it's developed over time through numerous acts of love. Sometimes that are so small that you don't even notice, but they are still very touching to us. Therefore, continue to look for ways to show love for your mate every day, and not just say it. Set aside time daily to talk together, and just as importantly, really listen to each other. There's a saying, if love is the heart of a family, then communication is its lifeblood, which means that your love will be strong if you communicate with each other consistently and constantly, just like the heart pumps out blood. Make it a habit to show kindness in little things, such as tender words and acts of affection. Commendation goes a long way in knowing that you care. And appreciate the little things that you do for each other, like knowing how Joe likes to order her In-N-Out burger, or charging all of Mike's gadgets before he goes out and does a little photo gig. Never forget what made you fall in love with each other in the first place. Remember the homework assignment that I gave you to before we came here? I asked each of you to give me a list of 5 things of either a quality that that person has or an instance where what that person did showed how much that they loved you. And I want to share one from each of you. For you, Joe, the first thing that Mike appreciated about you was that you're patient, especially with him when it comes to things that he gets annoyed at. You definitely keep him in check. And people might think that you're a little slow, but he sees it as patience. We know you're not slow. You're just calculating, right? Now, for you, Mike, the first thing that Joe appreciated about you was your sense of humor. You have this sense of humor that makes everyone in the room laugh. Whether it's just you being super weird or throwing a crazy accent out there or just viewing the most random themes that sounds so stupid, but yet when it comes for you, it's super funny. So remember these things. And always remember to love each other the way you do today. Which is like, I want you to take these copies of your list and also take these Bibles with you. And you'll notice on the cover your names and today's date. Sorry, I didn't write anything personal. Just remember what I told you today, okay? But as long as you remember your love today and you never forget Jehovah as your third cord in your marriage, doing these things will continue to strengthen your marriage today, tomorrow, your first anniversary, and beyond. For we know that love never fails. At this point, we'll ask you two to stand, and we will call on Brother Manny Mabunga in order to conduct the vows.
All right, to make everything legal in the sight of our God and for men. It's a great privilege to be able to say your vows or oath to one another. So what I want you to do, Mike, is hold the hands of Joanna and look into her eyes, your beautiful bride, and you can repeat after me. Do you mind if I get closer so you could? We only have one mic. Okay, Mike, you ready?
I, Michael Ray Imaas Arcangel,
Take you
take you, Joanna Ashley Reynoso Katok,
to be my wedded wife
to be my wedded wife,
to love and to cherish
to love and to cherish,
in accordance with the divine law as set forth in the Holy Scriptures for Christian husbands,
as set forth by the divine law for Christian husbands,
for as long as we both shall live,
as long as we both shall live,
together on earth according to God's marital arrangement.
together on earth as part of God's marital arrangement.
It's close enough. It's all right, you did good. Okay, now it's Johanna's turn. Go look in Mike's shining eyes. Hold his hand and repeat after me. I
I, Joanna Ashley Reynoso Katok,
take you
take you, Michael Ray Imas Arcangel,
to be my wedded husband,
to be my wedded husband,
to love and to cherish
to love and to cherish
and deeply respect,
and deeply respect,
in accordance with the divine law
in accordance to the divine law,
as set forth in the Holy Scriptures for Christian wives,
as set forth
in the Holy Scriptures.
in the Holy Scriptures as a Christian wife,
For as long as we both shall live
for as long as we both shall live
together on earth
together on earth
according to God's marital arrangement.
according to God's marital arrangement.
Not too bad. You guys have rings? Do you have rings? Now, this ring is an outward and visible sign signifying unto all the uniting of this man and this woman in the bonds of matrimony. Still fits?
Got it? Touchdown Musubi. Oh, I don't fit either.
No more dinner for you tonight, Mike.
You got this.
Good.
There you go. Why are we shaking?
Yeah.
All right.
We got too bad.
For as much as Mike Arcangel and Joanna Katok have covenanted before Jehovah God and these witnesses to accept each other in wedlock, I, as an ordained minister and by the authority conferred upon me by the Holy Scriptures and the state of Hawaii, pronounce that they are husband and wife together. What God has yoked together, let no man put apart. Now we would like to call Brother Mike for a blessing for the newlyweds.
One last thing. Do you, Michael Ray Arcangel, in the presence of Jehovah God and these witnesses, take Joanna Ashley Katok to be your wedded wife, to love and to cherish in accordance with the divine law as outlined in the Holy Scriptures for Christian husbands for as long as you both may live?
I do.
Do you, Joanna Ashley Katok, in the presence of Jehovah God and these witnesses, take Michael Ray Arcangel to be your wedded husband, to love and to cherish and deeply respect in accordance with the divine law as outlined in the Holy Scriptures for Christian wives for as long as you both may live?
I do.
Who would give this woman to be married to this man?
I did.
Okay, now we'll ask Jehovah God for his blessing through prayer. It is my happy pleasure to introduce to this marriage gathering brother and sister Michael and Joanna Arcangel. And Mike, you may kiss your bride. And now we will have the procession.
Congratulations again to Mike and Joe. If you can hear me back there, we're so happy for you. And thank you as well, Brother Lontok, for that wonderful talk/reminder. And then lastly, thank you to everyone who contributed to the joy and success of this happy and very beautiful occasion. Now, friends, if you're like me, you're probably hungry. So you'll be happy to know that there's a lot of food and refreshments in the back. So in order to get there, if you look behind you, there's a driveway. So just follow that and then it'll lead you to the back area. So again, thank you everyone.